So here we come to B207B, Block 3. So we finished Block 1 in B207A. We finished Block 2. We just finished Block 2 in week 6. Week 7 starts with a new block, which is long-term success. Block 1 was about innovation. Block 2 was about globalization. And here we have Block 3, long-term success. Why is long-term success so important that a whole block is for it? Why do you think is important for any organization nowadays? Do we only focus on the short-term success or also on the long-term? We need to focus on the, yes, go ahead.
I think they should focus on long-term success.
Yes, we need to focus on the long term, not only make profits right now within a month or a year or 2 years, but also even if sometimes you want to give up some of your profits for investments, but increase your long-term profits or long-term success, this is a better strategy for organizations. Okay, so in terms of the long-term success, we're going to start with the employment relations. This belongs to which business function? HR, absolutely. So this is the human resource management function. This is related to the employment relation. So the first thing that we are going to discuss here is the empowerment era. What does empowerment mean? Give power to someone, okay? Give tamkin, right? We hear this word all the time. You want to empower another person, you want to empower a child, you want to empower an employee. It means you want to give them the power, the tools, and the knowledge needed in order for them to make better decisions, better production, having a better productivity, and so on. All right. In order to do that, you want to improve this individual in order for them to give you more. So the concept here is our employees, we want to improve their skills. We want to improve who they are. Yes, it's going to cost us more now, but on the long run, it's going to be more successful because over time, these employees will be more productive and they will be better people to make decisions in our business. This is the main concept of empowerment. And this is the relationship of empowerment with the long-term success, which is the main title of the whole block. So for this reason, this period has been described as the empowerment era. It's about enabling workers to reach their full potential as employees. You want to enable your people to give you their best. So empowerment could include a range of things that makes the life of your employee much easier. When you make the life of your employees easier, they will respond back by being more committed, more loyal, and more motivated. Okay? So the flexible working to encourage a good work-life balance. The Corona time has proved to everyone that we could work, we could be productive, sometimes as productive as when we work from home, for example, when we are flexible, as much as we do from the workplace. So the point here, when we do a work-life balance, it means that you don't need this employee to be there just for fixed hours during the day, 8 to 5, just be there without measuring really what they do. In fact, you can give them tasks and they can work on these tasks at any time that fits their time along with their family time. Because most of the people have families, they have kids, they have elderly parents, they have other commitments, yet they are very good at what they do. They are very good at their jobs and they are really very dedicated people. But we need to understand that these same individuals also have their own uh, commitments in their personal life. Okay, so here we have a work-life balance. We need a work-life balance. So we need to be flexible when it comes to the realities of balancing career and family. This flexibility is extremely important, especially for mothers, for new mothers. So this flexibility doesn't only benefit the workers, it also benefits the job itself, having this flexibility with everyone. Okay. So companies need to fundamentally rethink the way they design work and jobs. We need to change the whole thing. We need to change how we used to do things because, technology is different now. Things are different. We can't do the same thing we used to do 30 and 40 years ago. We can't do it in the same way. Things need to change and things need to be adapted. So there are drivers for this change, for this empowerment to happen even better by the availability of globalization. These global companies work in different countries, so they have employees in different locations and geographic locations, and also because of the technology that is allowing us to do this even better. If you do a little Google search, you will find that there are now software companies that are developing virtual workplaces. Yani they are developing software where you could, wherever you are in the world, whether you are at home or traveling or wherever you are, you go into the system and it's as if you are in your office. So this is a virtual office. This is a place where you could be available. You could enter the meeting, attend the meeting, and then you could also, of course, message someone or call them over the system. Software companies are now developing this, and it's expected to start to look like that in the next 10, 15, whatever years in the future. The empowered workplaces are ultimately meant to be an advantage for employers because they revolve around increasing job performance. So why is it also a positive for the organizations? Because it measures performance and not only measures the number of hours that you stay at work. So because of that, employment relations are undergoing a dramatic transformation. Yet it has also shifted from an emphasis on employment to a focus on employability. Now, here we have two concepts. The concept of employment, yani just giving a job to someone. The concept of employability is not only having this employee work for you, but also increase his employability rate in the future. Increase the rate in which other companies might want this employee. Okay? Why would you want to do that? Why would you want to spend money, train these employees, make sure they are trained enough and experienced enough, and then have them move to a competitor? The answer here is that as long as you are, of course, it's better to have a trained employee, not an employee who knows nothing about the job. So this is number one. Number two, this is what also is related to the long-term success. The training and development of our employees will lead to better productivity on the job. Okay? We can't stop developing and empowering employees because of the fear that they will go somewhere else. This will affect our business. This will harm our business. When the employee decides to move, this is the normal cycle of life. We have to accept it. It's the normal cycle of life, and this is normal competition between companies. They compete on skills and on human resources. So as long as the employee is happy, is motivated, they should not leave unless they get something better. So this ability for employees to gain new skills and new experience will allow them the freedom to control their destinies, their economic destinies of where they go. Okay, so the more experienced and educated and skilled the employee is, the more options he or she will have outside. So for employers, this means new responsibility for employers, training people and improving their employability. This commonly entails giving employees the opportunity to learn new skills, to be trained, to take courses, whatever it is. For employees, it's reflected in a better CV. Right? So now they have a better CV, a better experience, and more skills. What's the downside? What's the downside on that? The downside is that for the companies, they will spend money on employees that might leave later on. But we still say, we always say, and we keep on saying that this investment is the best investment that we can make. It's the investment in people. Any questions about the first session? Okay, now session 6, the second part we will go through today is change management. Change management also comes under the long-term success because we always need change. I want you to relate this to the first block that you studied in the previous course, B207A, innovation. Innovation and change are definitely connected with each other. We need to constantly change. We cannot remain the same all the time. We need to change constantly because if you don't change, your competitors will be ahead. All right? So, but at the same time, we cannot change all of the sudden. We cannot make quick and fast changes. We cannot make sudden changes. So we need to keep this balance between changing and at the same time being stable. All right. So what is needed here is the small steps of changes required. So organizations must plan for the present and the future, while at the same time they look at their experiences, at their past. So it's essential for managers to innovate, but for a purpose. Not innovate just for the sake of innovation. They innovate for a specific goal in mind. They innovate, they change because they want to improve the cost, they want to improve the time, they want to meet customers' demand. Any reason, they have a certain goal in mind when you make a change. You don't just make it because you like to change. So here is an example for a healthcare unit that needed to change. So the steps here are you begin with one unit. So when you attempt to change, you don't change the whole thing. You have this hospital and you have so many units. Do you start with all the units at once? No. So you start with one unit. You make the change. Let's say you need things to happen faster. Okay, so you want to save on time in that unit. So you implement the change that you want in that unit, and in order to do that, you create a core team that is responsible for the change. Okay, you define the goal, you have the unit do the work, you assess the work. Was it successful? Once it's successful, then you scale the initiative. All right. Once it's successful, you make it happen in other units. Okay, so you scale it on other units and other places of your business in order for this to happen. Here, empowering your own frontline caregivers to build new standards of care, giving each site the power to adapt them. So here also we have the empowerment of the people responsible of the change in order for them to be able to do this change. All right, is the example clear? So innovation requires a strong institutional support. We need a support from the top management, of course. It needs to be supported financially, decision-wise, it needs to be supported. So in order for it to be successful, it needs to be managed well. And it needs to it could include any business function, it could include marketing, human resources, it could include any level of the organization, upper level, lower level, and so on. Now, here we have a theory. It's called the diffusion of innovation. Okay, this is a very popular theory for an innovation. It was created by Everett Rogers, and it consists of 5 categories of people associated with innovation. Why do we need to understand this? Because if you work in any managerial position, in any position that involves change, you need to understand the different types of people that are involved in the change. The first level are the innovators themselves, are the people who call for the change, or who invent the change, or who create the change. They are the innovators. I like to give the example of the first smartphone, if you can recall, or maybe you were very little. Back in 2007, the first iPhone was out in the market. And it was announced by Apple that we have this revolutionary phone that will change the way that people communicate and so on. A lot of people did not buy the idea right away, right? A lot of people were like, why would I need this phone? I don't have a need for it. Okay, so the first level of people are the innovators. They are the people who created. So the Apple team who have created it and the people around them who supported them at first, right? So we call them the innovators. The early adopters are those first consumers who stood in line to buy the first generation iPhone. Okay, I have a friend who went to the Apple. You know, it was launched on a certain date, so people were standing in line in front of the Apple Store since 6 a.m. in the morning, okay, in order to get the phone, because these are the early adopters, the early supporters of the innovation. Okay, the same thing would happen in organizations. When there is a change, you see a group of people will be supporters immediately, and the rest are still objecting the change. All right? So this model could be used whether in organizations or for organizations when they have a new innovation and for customers, for consumers of the product.
This process, you could call it before the launch, let's say, or during the process itself.
It's during the change. Okay? We have phases of the change. You will not get the full support of 100% of the people right away. Okay, this is why we say it happens in steps. All right. Now, after that, you have the early majority. Okay, so after the early adopters, the first people who bought the phone, they started using it. Maybe Apple gave some gifts to people for them to try it, to talk about it, make YouTube videos about it. not really social media was back then very popular, but YouTube was there, and influencers were starting to be يعني were starting to market themselves. So that was in 2007. Then the iPhone 2 came out, right? iPhone 3. So the early majority are the ones who are big population of people because they are the majority, but they are early, who started buying and started getting the idea what this smartphone does, what benefit it brings, and what they can do with it. Okay, the late majority are the people who joined late, but also they are a majority as much as the early majority. They are also are a big number of people who had to join late because this is something that became a norm. Okay, this is something that became, you know, a lot of the people who they know have now the apps on their phones. They have installed music and messaging applications and so on. The laggards are the ones who must follow just because they have to. خلاص يعني. Exactly, because now they feel they are the ones out of fashion. Okay, so they follow because they have to. They have no other choice at this point than to follow. All right. So over time, if an innovation reaches a critical mass, reaching a large enough majority of users, it will have effectively realized change within the culture. Yes, within less than 10 years, Apple was able to realize change within in the world, I would say. I would say that was within 5 to 7 years, no more than 5 to 7 years. Okay, because by 2015, everybody would have a smartphone by then. Okay, they started in 2007, between 2007 and 2015. During this time frame, a huge change, but we did not feel it because it happened. It happened slowly back then. But now, as you look at it, no, it happened very quickly. Innovation is often met with hesitancy or even resistance. So we have what we call, this is a very popular keyword that you could look at, resistance to change. People usually would resist change. Why? Because they are always afraid that the top-down orders is not for their, it doesn't serve their interests. Okay? It serves the interest of the organization on their own expense. And also because they are happy where they are. They are happy within their comfort zone. They don't want to change. So there is in the human being this resistance to change because we just want to do whatever we are used to be doing. So there is a fear of uncertainty, a comfortability with existing methods and ideas, as well as a distrust. We don't trust the upper management and their intention. So instead of the top-down approach, we can do something like a bottom-up approach. Okay? A bottom-up approach would be involved in asking people what they think. So make them feel as if they have made the decision. So take their feedback, ask them what they think. If you have a specific problem, outline the problem and ask for solutions for the problem from the employees. This is the first step in making them accept that a change is going to happen because they will participate in making the decision and the change happen. Okay, so we have an 8-step process here to make things better. Establish a sense of urgency. You want to say, well, this is urgent. We have to find a solution. The sales are declining in our company. We are losing money in the market. Our competitors are outgrowing us and so on. So any problem you have, share it with the rest. So establish a sense of urgency. create the guiding coalition. All right. Remember the first stage of the early adopters, right? This is the guiding coalition. Coalition شو يعني تحالف, right? So have enough people to support this idea and this vision. Develop the vision and strategy. Communicate the change vision. Empower employees for broad-based action. Again, here the word empowerment is coming again. Empower them, and give them enough confidence, enough power to make this decision along with the management. Consolidate gains and produce more change. So as we said before, we are making this in steps, in baby steps. So every time you make a gain, take advantage of this gain, take advantage of this progress, and make even more change. The second baby step, the third baby step, and so on. Anchor new approaches in the culture. With change, you need a culture of change for change to happen. Okay? A lot of big companies would hire people based on how they think and based on their attitudes, based on how they are able to adjust with change very quickly, based on how they treat others, based on their attitude towards dealing with this type of matter, more than they do with their knowledge, their experience, and what they know. Because, anybody could learn anything, but not anybody could change their attitude and the way they do work.
They could learn, but they cannot face.
Yeah, I'm saying that these big companies, place more importance on the psychological and social tests more than they do on the CV itself and the experience, because they want people, depending on the culture that they have, they want people with specific qualifications when it comes to their psychological traits and personality traits. Okay, this is sometimes more important than what you know and what you have studied. This is why, because the attitudes of people matters really more than what they know, because you can teach them anything. Okay, when they have the right attitude.
What is 0.6 purposes?
Okay, generate short-term wins. These wins, these are the baby steps that I was talking about. Okay, don't jump to the last phase or to the last goal right away. So make small changes, short-term wins. Okay, the first win, it's a small win. The second, the third, but overall, they will build up to have a big win. Okay, so all these strategies are based on an assumption that change is actually good. Well, guess what? Change is not always good. Okay, sometimes we make a wrong decision to change. So don't take it for granted that always we need to change. Sometimes change is not beneficial for the organization. Okay? Also, some changes are more beneficial to some stakeholders and not beneficial to other stakeholders. All right, so make sure that to take into consideration the interests and the well-being of all the stakeholders available. When I say stakeholders, I say consumers, employees, managers, shareholders, and also the publics around this company. So innovation is not just one event. It's not a project that you do once and stop. It's a continuous process. It's an ongoing process that must be implemented over time and regularly. Okay? So we need to look at transformation rather than innovation, because the word innovation gives the impression that we have to create something new, something special, something very unique. Well, it's not always the case. The smaller transformations sometimes are more needed, little by little, again, the baby steps. This is especially important given that these technological improvements are always there. We always have technological improvements. So always we need to take into consideration what the technology has for us to improve our jobs. Okay, we're not saying that we need to implement all the technological aspects, all the technology innovations that are out there, but keep an open mind to what's going on in the technology in order to improve our business. Okay.